March 24, 1998, a Caribbean cruise turns into a nightmare when 23-year-old Amy Lynn Bradley vanishes without a trace from the Royal Caribbean cruise ship Rhapsody of the Seas. A fun family vacation suddenly becomes one of the most puzzling unsolved disappearances in modern history. Today, over 2 decades later, the question remains: what really happened to Amy Lynn Bradley? Amy Lynn Bradley was a vibrant, athletic 23-year-old woman from Virginia. She had just graduated from college with a degree in physical education and was about to start a new job. Her parents, Ron and Eva Bradley, along with her younger brother Brad, had invited her to join them on a vacation cruise to celebrate her recent achievements. The family boarded the Royal Caribbean ship Rhapsody of the Seas in San Juan, Puerto Rico. The voyage would take them through the Caribbean, with planned stops in Aruba and Curacao. Everything seemed perfect, but by the early hours of March 24, 1998, just days into the trip, Amy had vanished. On the evening of March 23rd, Amy and her brother Brad spent the night dancing and socializing at the cruise ship's nightclub. Several photos show Amy on the dance floor, even interacting with members of the ship's band, including a bass player known by the nickname Yellow. At around 3:35 a.m. on March 24th, Brad returned to the family's cabin. Amy arrived shortly after. They sat together on the cabin balcony for a few minutes chatting. Brad remembers Amy saying she was tired and a little cold. He went to sleep, assuming she'd come inside soon after. Sometime around 5:30 a.m., Amy's father, Ron, briefly woke up and stepped outside to check on her. He saw her sleeping in the lounge chair on the balcony. The sliding door was closed. Everything seemed normal, but when Ron woke again around 6 o'clock a.m., Amy was gone. Her sandals and a t-shirt were still on the balcony floor, but there was no sign of Amy. Ron quickly searched the ship. No one had seen Amy. Alarmed, the family alerted ship security. They begged the crew to make an emergency announcement and prevent passengers from disembarking in Curacao. The ship had already docked by that time, but by the time any action was taken, most passengers had already left the ship. The delay in securing the area, nearly 90 minutes, would prove critical. As the investigation unfolded, multiple passengers and crew members came forward with strange and disturbing accounts. One passenger, Lori Thompson, said she saw Amy walking on the upper deck early that morning, between 5 and 6 a.m., accompanied by Yellow, the cruise ship musician she had danced with the night before. Moments later, Lori claimed she saw Yellow return alone. Even more unsettling, Brad, Amy's brother, recalled that shortly after her disappearance, Yellow approached him and said, "I'm sorry about your sister." At that point, the disappearance hadn't been publicly announced. How did he know? Yellow was later questioned by the ship's captain and the FBI. He passed a polygraph test and was not considered a suspect, but his behavior remained suspicious in the eyes of the family. Other witness reports emerged over time. A taxi driver in Curacao claimed a frantic woman matching Amy's description approached him near the port on the morning she disappeared. In the following months, 2 Canadian tourists reported seeing a woman with similar tattoos to Amy's on a beach. Accompanied by 2 aggressive men, she looked distressed. In 1999, a U.S. Navy sailor named Bill Hefner came forward with a chilling statement. He claimed that during a visit to a brothel in Curacao, a woman approached him and whispered, "My name is Amy Bradley. Please help me." But by the time he reported it to authorities, the brothel had mysteriously burned down. Each of these sightings added fuel to a growing theory. Amy Bradley hadn't fallen overboard. She had been abducted. Following Amy's disappearance, the Royal Caribbean Cruise Line, the FBI, and the U.S. Coast Guard launched a massive search effort. Helicopters, rescue boats, and a radar-equipped plane scoured the waters off Curacao for 4 days, but no body was ever found. No trace of Amy. No clothing. No floating debris. Nothing. Amy was a certified lifeguard and a strong swimmer. Her family and investigators found it highly unlikely that she would have accidentally fallen overboard, especially since the railing on their cabin balcony was nearly 4 feet tall, and her sandals and clothes were left behind. The FBI publicly stated that there was no evidence Amy had committed suicide, fallen by accident, or been pushed. Still, the case quickly hit a wall. For years, the family pressed authorities to reopen leads and explore every angle. In a desperate attempt for answers, the Bradleys offered a reward of up to $250,000 for Amy's safe return and $50,000 for any information about her location. They even created a dedicated website and worked closely with national news outlets to keep the story alive. Despite their efforts, the leads grew cold, but the theory that Amy may have been abducted, possibly sold into human trafficking, continued to gain ground. Accidental fall or suicide. Over the years, several theories have tried to explain what happened to Amy Lynn Bradley, but only a few hold real weight based on evidence and witness testimony. Let's break them down. At first, many assumed Amy had fallen overboard, maybe slipped from the balcony or jumped. But this theory doesn't hold up. Amy was a trained lifeguard and a strong swimmer. The ship's railings were high, no one heard a splash, no one saw her fall, and no evidence of a struggle or impact was ever found. Even more telling, her sandals and clothes were neatly left behind. There was no note, no sign of emotional distress. Her family strongly rejected the idea that she would take her own life, murder and cover-up on board. Another theory suggests that Amy was murdered on the ship, possibly by someone she knew, and her body disposed of at sea. Supporters of this theory point to the suspicious behavior of Yellow, the musician who interacted with Amy the night before. They also note the lack of cooperation from Royal Caribbean in the early hours of the investigation, the delayed announcements, the open gangway in Curaçao. But to date, no forensic evidence supports this theory. No signs of violence were found in her cabin, and no suspects were formally charged. Human trafficking and abduction. This is the theory most widely accepted by her family and many investigators. Multiple witness accounts point to Amy being seen on shore in Curaçao after she disappeared. The sighting by the taxi driver, the 2 Canadian tourists who saw a distressed woman with matching tattoos, and most famously, the U.S. Navy sailor who claimed Amy begged him for help inside a Caribbean brothel. Years later, in 2005, the family received an anonymous email with a photograph of a woman resembling Amy. In the photo, the woman appears dazed, sitting on a bed in lingerie. Experts analyzed the image and many believed it could be Amy. Older, thinner, but unmistakably her. Amy's case has since become one of the most cited examples of suspected human trafficking involving cruise passengers. To this day, the FBI still offers a $25,000 reward for information that leads to solving her case. Amy Lynn Bradley's disappearance didn't fade into obscurity. Over the years, her case has been featured in numerous media outlets and investigative programs across the U.S. and beyond. It appeared on shows like America's Most Wanted, Unsolved Mysteries, Dr. Phil, and Disappeared, keeping the story alive and urging the public to come forward with any leads. In 2025, Netflix released a new docu-series titled Amy Bradley is Missing. The series reignited international interest in the case. Over 3 episodes, it explores Amy's life, the days leading up to her disappearance, and the most credible theories surrounding what might have happened to her. The series features never-before-seen interviews with Amy's parents and brother, as well as passengers and former crew members who were on board Rhapsody of the Seas that week. It also revisits crucial evidence, including the jazz photo and the Navy brothel sighting. While the series didn't reveal new hard evidence, it gave a fresh voice to the family's ongoing search and reminded the world that Amy's story is far from over. Decades later, Amy Lynn Bradley's disappearance remains one of the most disturbing and mysterious cold cases involving a cruise ship. So what really happened? Let's weigh the facts. She didn't leave a suicide note. She didn't take her personal belongings. She was in good mental health and looking forward to starting a new job. Multiple people claim to have seen her alive in Curacao, sometimes distressed, sometimes asking for help. Her sandals and clothes were left behind. No splash was ever heard. No body was ever found. And then there's the photo, the one sent anonymously to her family, showing a woman who could very well be Amy, alive but clearly not free. The evidence points away from accident or suicide and strongly toward abduction and trafficking. While no definitive proof has ever surfaced, it is the scenario that best fits the chain of events, the timeline, and the witness testimonies. Amy's family believes she was taken and forced into a life she never chose. And somewhere out there, they still believe she may be alive. This has been the case of Amy Lynn Bradley. If you found this story important, please share it. The more people who know, the better the chance someone, somewhere, will come forward. Sometimes it only takes one tip to solve a cold case.